Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 122, and this is going to be one for the books. Boy, do I have an incredible amount of information to share with you all today. I know that I titled the last podcast I released my most important podcast of 2023, and this one might actually top it. I have so much to get into today, and you guys know me, I don't hype things up, so I'm really saying this because it's true. There is an immense amount of gnosis in today's podcast, so definitely get a pen and paper. You're going to want to be taking notes on this. A lot of stuff will be revealed, and let's just jump straight into it. So first things first, welcome to the Red Pill Podcast. Make sure to get comfortable, get relaxed, grab a cup of coffee or tea if it's the morning time, or a glass of wine, a beer, beverage of your choice. I'm personally drinking some chai tea. Absolutely incredible. I was having some yesterday during my live stream, which ended up almost going for 4 hours. So appreciate anyone who joined in on that. It's really great to actually go from doing the live stream on a Saturday over to these podcasts on Sundays. I love that flow. Just feels really nice to get all of that information out there and then move into this and get to focus on the charts. So I'm enjoying this chai. It's hyping me up. And I really appreciate anyone who is new here. So if you've just joined the mastermind community, welcome to the Wolfpack. It's so great to have you here with us. If you are new and you haven't gotten access to our Discord server yet, just go ahead and send me a direct message over on Patreon with your Discord username and the last 4 numbers after your username. It's called the legacy username. I know that there's been some updates in Discord, but don't worry, that information is still stored. And by letting me know your Discord username and those 4 numbers, I'm going to be able to send you an invite to our Discord server. And I can only do that through Patreon direct messages. I can't help you through email or in the comments section of this post. Please make sure to follow those instructions. And we are doing amazing with the voting system on the altcoins that we review every week. Great job, everyone. We will be actually dedicating today's podcast to a decode of Worldcoin. It's not going to be the entire podcast, but we're going to be taking some time to review that, some of the symbolism that's going on there, talk a little bit about it, my thoughts, theories, and kind of my investment strategy with regards to these new projects that are just hitting the mainstream and that are tied to artificial intelligence, etc. So I believe today is going to be packed with so much information. We can't waste any time. Let's jump straight into things. So in the last podcast, we went over a very important date, which is actually going to be tomorrow. We have it on Monday, Moon Day. It will be July 31st. And this date is leading into the first full moon of the month of August. So again, we have 2 full moons, 2 super moons in the month of August, making that a blue moon. And tomorrow definitely seems like an interesting date based on all the connections I shared in that last podcast, Red Pill number 121. Check it out if you haven't already. That was probably one of my most important podcasts of the year. Really, it's packed full of gnosis. It's packed full of information regarding the setup into that recent FOMC meeting that just came and went. And we're going to be reviewing that for sure today, how that all went down. So one of the concepts that I made in that podcast special was sharing 3 different scenarios for the traditional markets, which I want to recap now since we have made it through that FOMC meeting, Jerome Powell speaking last Wednesday, and the markets responding overall positively into the weekly close regarding the increase of 25 basis points. This 0.25% increase will take interest rates to their highest level in more than 22 years. Now, you heard that right, 22 years. Just like 22 years ago was the 9/11 ritual, which I've been bringing up quite often in my work over this year, and the importance of that landing in this particular year called the Jubilee. Now, this is an important cycle to revisit because in the 2000 to 2001, we had the dot-com bubble, right? And that essence that we had with 2020 into the alt season of 2021 and watching everything that's unfolded since then into the year of 2022, where we had back-to-back lunar eclipses where we watched really big names on the crypto world stage collapse, such as Terra Luna, which collapsed during a lunar eclipse, as well as what happened with FTX, an FTT token, and Sam Bankman-Fried. Now we've moved out of that energy and we've actually moved on into what I'm calling a solar cycle. So things are a little bit different now, as you're well aware. I know if you're new to this community, you might be missing out on some of those key pieces of data, but that's the beauty of all of the decodes that I've released thus far, because if you're ever confused, you can just go back and start on the Jubilee series, which goes from the quote sell in May and go away decoded video, and then that led into the world reserve decoded, which then followed up with Fed Now and then the August blue moon, and then the next one, which will be part 5 in that series, will be called Yellow Bricks Road. I'll be dedicating it to bricks, and I'm really excited to get that out. But I've been talking about this important number 22, the master builder, master destroyer number. And I just think it's kind of interesting how 22 years ago was 9/11, and 22 years ago was actually the last time that the interest rates were this high. I find that to be kind of, well, you guys know how this is. There is no coincidences. I'm sorry to leave this up on the screen for so long, but it is a date connection that I didn't get around to decoding just yet because I needed to get this podcast out and I spent so much time preparing everything I'm about to share with you. But I just find it really interesting how tomorrow is connected to November 27th, which is the full moon in November by 119 days. Speaking of 9/11, that's the mirror of 9/11. And it happens to have the same exact date numerology, the 81 and the mirror of 81, which is 18. Now, you guys know 18 is a very powerful number in Judaism. But I just think that this is a crucial thing to consider. And then you guys know we have the 333rd day of the year shortly after that, and the day before being the day leaving 33 days in the year, the 33333 code. Just fun, I think if there's any astrologers here in our community, anyone who's interested in that kind of stuff, this seems to be a very key date, especially if something happens tomorrow. Now, I'm not calling for anything big to happen tomorrow, by the way, not at all. Really, for me, it has everything to do with the blue moon, which will be at the end of August, leading us into September, and it's the month of September that I see to be an event, especially because we have 9/11, 22-year anniversary. We also have the end of the Jubilee on Rosh Hashanah, so it's packed. And then moving into the solar eclipse of October. So when I find dates that are important in November, it's like, oh, it's awesome, because it really just helps me get a little bit more prepared, determine some of the energy around this code. And we know that this number 81 and 18 ties us back to Venus by the code. You could see that right there. And Venus having this 25, which ties us back to the rabbit, 5225. Venus being associated as the light bringer, Eosphorus, the bringer of light, the star of the morning. And Venus being associated with love or Aphrodite, this being exoteric. But we need to connect this back to rabbit because rabbit is a sign of fertility, a sign of life, pregnancy, etc. So we went over this in the Year of the Rabbit Decoded. Check that out if you haven't already. That's my tie back into the code of Venus. But that 25 connection is crucial, right? Because we have crypto giving you 25 in the same cipher. The mirror of 25 is 52. Cryptocurrency equals 52. It's coded. We got to pay attention to it. So Venus being the light bringer, Eosphorus, phosphorus, this connection of light, And frequency has everything to do with moving into next year. And we will be in the transition out of the year of the rabbit into the year of the dragon when we've moved out of Jubilee, effectively into the year 2024. And this is going to get, like, we're just getting started, family. We're only 10 minutes into this, and I have none of what I've just said is scripted. I'm literally just going off the top right now with information to consider. And what I'm going to get into a little bit later is going to tie back into everything I just said about moving into the year of the dragon. But I need to get back on track here because there's just so much to say. There's really so much to get into. I mean, speaking about raising 25 basis points, and we have, again, the 52-25 connection back to rabbit. You know, it's a quarter. So this 0.25% increase is taking us to the highest level in more than 22 years, and I think that needs to be considered by the code. Now, the day after the FOMC meeting on July 27th, there was some serious volatility in the markets. Let me go back to the S&P and break it down a little bit. I'm going to turn off all this noise. We're going to go to the daily chart on the S&P, and you're going to see here this candle that we got on the 27th. So Powell spoke on the 26th, effectively 27th, huge volatility day. I'm going to go ahead and assume there's some volume that kicked in. Actually, nothing out of the ordinary. We're still on a declination of volume. Not really much to say here. Okay, we've been pretty standard there. Cool. So we aren't anticipating any huge shakeups anyways right now, being only in July. Okay, beautiful. We're back on track now. So just wanted to point out the volatility the day after the FOMC, and there was, I kind of want to call this a topping out candle. That is kind of the vibe. You know, like if I was to just purely look at this and go off of intuition, these sorts of candles do look like topping structures. Now, I'm not calling it that because we're about to break this down a little bit further, but this does have that vibe. So when we look at this, though, even though we've mentioned on the daily, this is kind of like a topping candle, well, we go to the weekly and we're going to see a different story. I mean, we essentially closed on a new high in the structure, higher than everything in 2022. Effectively back into the highs of 2021. Like, wow. So we closed on new yearly highs and actually higher highs considering the entire year of 2022. And with this weekly close, the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ are within their buying climax range of the end of 2021. Yeah, you heard me correctly. This has effectively surpassed the automatic rally vibes, and we're in a confirmed clown world now with this stock market. So with that being said, let's revisit the three scenarios, and then to kick things off, scenario number one, this classic bull trap idea, seemingly less likely at this time based on the technicals because, well, let me just first recap what the three scenarios are. So scenario number one was a typical bull trap, which we tend to see a reversal around the top of the golden pocket at best. And this leads you to a deeper correction down into the 382 for the S&P, for the stocks. When we're talking macro, like lots of data. If we're looking at like a crypto, we'd want to drag it out a little bit deeper to the 236. And then if we were to start breaking below that critical support level, we have a double bottom and then we keep moving further. But getting back to the three scenarios, we have the typical bull trap, which it seems that we're moving past that, especially because we made it through the FOMC meeting, closed the week green. Now, we had scenario number two, which is the double top. Then double tops we can entertain for the S&P on this, for instance, we can entertain anything around 4,700 points to 4,800 points, like anything in that band. It's good enough. It doesn't actually have to be exactly a perfect top. Now, then you had scenario number three, which is a rare higher high bull trap. So let's just take a look at the bi-weekly chart really quickly. I want to go to the Dow. Wow. Mamma mia. Okay, so you could see this right here. Let me turn off these moving averages. Look at this bi-weekly close. My goodness. Okay, actually this is worse. This is the NASDAQ on the bi-weekly. This is insanity. This is 10 bi-weekly candle closes green in a row. 10 bi-weekly candles, okay? And what's interesting about this is the people that have been hating on this art that I'm putting out, which is, we're going to get those people, of course. That's just the nature of what we're doing here. But the haters, they're going to try to have they have the audacity to say that this is not a Jubilee year. I mean, come on. Like, it's time to put the they live glasses on. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at this. Look at this. It's insane. It's absolutely like... this is basically a bull run when you look at it just purely on technicals. This type of rally is very you guys get the picture here, but this is shocking that it just continues to move up and up and up, and we're even touching into the 888 fib. These are ideas that we were sharing, by the way, back in the beginning of the year. And when I was sharing them publicly, a lot of people were like, I don't know about that, man. And we've watched it happen and surpass. We've watched surpassing the golden pocket and even tapping out in the 888. It's incredible. Now, what we would like is for this type of energy to go to the crypto market, and that's what we're not seeing, and that's interesting, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But I want us to now go to the monthly. We are effectively about to close our 5th monthly green candle in a row for the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. Just look at this. This is monthly candles. Anyways, since in the last podcast I shared that idea about scenario number 3 and got amazing feedback about that unique analysis. And for anyone who doesn't remember, this was about the year 2018. I'm just going to quickly revisit 2018 and share the idea here. And this is the NASDAQ. I want to look at the Dow. I think it's a lot better. It's right here. Boom. So the idea here about the scenario number 3, which was a rare higher high bull trap, was I was intrigued about Bitcoin doing that back in the last cycle, how we topped out in April of 2021, had a pullback, and then we went on to a slightly new all-time high in November of 2021, which then followed by a deeper correction. Well, we've seen this happen before in the Dow. And now I'm kind of feeling, this scenario number 3, based off of what just happened with closing up on that FOMC meeting and increase in, 0.25% increase in interest rates, and the next FOMC meeting being all the way in September. I mean, this kind of gives me a feeling that this is in the cards. This is definitely a valid idea. But the concept here is we hit an all-time high in January, pullback, then we have a slightly new all-time high, which is short-lived, followed by a deeper correction into the end of the year, in the same year. So now, 2018 was not a Shemitah year. It wasn't a Jubilee. It wasn't a pre-election year or an election year. It was into Donald Trump's first full year and the commander-in-chief of the greatest republic on the planet, according to the Hoorah Boys. Just kidding. Gotta laugh about this bread and circus sometimes. But the point is that 2018 didn't really have a whole lot of, special things going on esoterically. And from an exoteric perspective, we even had the month of September looking pretty good for the stock market, which is not typical. So now let's explore the time frame around last Jubilee, which was during the 1970s. I think this will be pretty fun. Let me turn off these and just go to the data. So here we are. We're in 71. Right over here was your Nixon shock. Shemitah time right over here. Big correction after Shemitah. And you topped out in January. We went over this many, many times. But I wanted to revisit this because of scenario number 2. So let's explore the time frame around the last Jubilee, which here we are. I feel it could be helpful for what we're experiencing right now, and this connects with our scenario number 2, double top. So we can see that the all-time high, January 1973, big correction, relief rally, and now I want to pull some fibs here and show you what's going on. So Look at how this relief rally went up into the 888 fib, which we were just talking about a little bit earlier. Now, it stalled out here for around a full year, actually, 300 days before the last touch on the 888 and then the rejection. Then it went on to actually have a correction from there for even longer than a year, about a 400-day correction. So it's pretty rough. And side note, this is pretty amazing to consider. This market was actually sideways. If I go to the weekly, this market was actually sideways from 1966 all the way until 1983, about a year after Reagan became president. And they said, let's just print this market into heaven. Let's just print this market into heaven, shall we, boys? They did this at like one of their Bohemian Grove meetings. That's what this market was, literally sideways that entire 17-year horizontal trading range. And 17 is a powerful number as well because it's the seventh prime number. It's all about those sevens. And this horizontal trading range basically started with a Shemitah cycle over here, and it ended with a Shemitah cycle over here. It effectively had 3 Shemitahs during that arduous 17-year trading range, just because of the way that this is set up. So imagine the stock market was stuck sideways, chopping around until 2039. I'm not saying that will happen, but it's just a wild thought to think about, Anyways, getting back to this concept of the 888 fib and what we were talking about over here, stalling out around these levels. If we were to entertain this today, it would be around about 36,000 points for the Dow. So going back to the 1970s, you can see that between the all-time high and around this trading range, it's about 4% from the highs, about 4 to 5%. I mean, that's about as close as it gets to a double top, especially because anytime trading above those levels back in 1973 was like a total of 1 month, which adds up to about 3 weeks of overall data, considering the stock market closes on the weekends. And then 3 years later, we had some data building at those higher levels above your typical automatic rally or bull trap levels than you did 3 years prior to the true all-time high. So considering the prior all-time highs, what I meant to say. So this does seem like a solid example of a very elusive double top, because by today's standards, if you were seeing monthly closes above the macro 786, above the macro golden pocket, which I'm going to go to the monthly and just show you, looking at this candle structure, if you were to start seeing these macro closes above the golden pocket, you'd assume we're headed to new all-time highs, especially if you waited 3 years to see that type of action in the market. So just put your mind back then and you could kind of see where I'm coming from here. So ultimately, it was all a fake out, which at the end of the day still falls under the concept of a bull trap. And 1976 was a great example of this. But lately, over the past 20 years, things are speeding up. Things are absolutely speeding up in these markets, especially over the last 10 years, with everyone having smartphones and phone applications for investing directly from our mobile devices, more on and off ramps than ever before, more fintech solutions outside of the so-called traditional banking system, provides more convenience to the retail investor and makes the retail investor feel more comfortable playing in this market. So since things are speeding up now, and I personally still love this 2018 example I went over last week, and this 1970s example I think was pretty solid as well, given the timing of everything, since we do not have another FOMC meeting until September 19th, 20th. So around September 19th or 20th, that's around 7 trading weeks from now till then. And a lot can happen in that time frame. So the next time Powell speaks in this upcoming FOMC meeting will literally just be about 3 days after the end of this Jubilee. That's very significant. We have Rosh Hashanah on the 15th, 16th, and 17th, and then we have him speaking effectively 3 days later. He speaks on the 20th of September, which I'm just going to go to the code real quick. So we have 920. And you could see that this is the day leaving 102 days in the year. Kind of like how I spoke about event 201, the 102 or 201, you remove the 0 and you have 12 and the mirror of 12 being 21, 21 tying you back to Saturn by the code. And this September is Saturn's month, and he speaks on the date that has an 18 date numerology, which that's the most important, one of the most important numbers tying in currency and finances to life in Judaism. And of course, it's on a Wednesday, which is the day of Mercury. Mercury being the myth tied to creating money out of thin air, which is literally the Federal Reserve System. And the first day of this meeting being on the day leaving 103 days in the year, kind of like, let me just show you what I mean by that. The 19th official first day of the meeting, 100 days left in the year, 103 days left in the year, like Mercury equals 103 by the code. So the bigger point here is that this market can legitimately stay in a neutral to bullish energy all the way up until Rosh Hashanah. And then those 14 days from the end of Jubilee until the start of October could be a correction that sets us back into the lows of March this year. Consider there was about an 8% drop back in 2018. So we're going to just revisit the 2018 idea again. We're going to the daily chart. And if you see here, initially off of this new higher high bull trap from top to this first correction, it was about almost 8% in 8 days. Okay. Now that's pretty substantial considering today we could easily drop a larger percentage because we have way more money circulating this market than ever before. And we're in such a specific and special economic environment, as you're all aware. So, of course, this is all just food for thought, considering the scenarios and being prepared so that we can respond to this market while everyone else is reacting to this market. If we were to have a tap into the 888 fib followed by, let's just say, a 9% correction in 8 days, that would be dragging us right down to the 0.5 fib, pretty much back testing where we were in May. And the overall correction here that we saw back in 2018, this correction first, before we had a little bit of relief right there, it was about 10%. So if we were again to assume that we're probably going to pull back at least 12%, similar, this is bringing us back pretty much to the 382, perfectly to where we were in March. And this is around where Silicon Valley Bank failed. We had a lot of psyops going on with retail banking over here. Just something food for thought, like we can do that in literally 10, 15 days. It could happen that fast. And we know this market's going to move faster than ever. One moment. All right. So now I think would be a perfect time to explore Bitcoin. But just to wrap up my thoughts, I'm kind of looking to the idea of more of a double top to the scenario number 3 as being what I'm banking on for the month of August. And I believe what I'm going to get into now is going to be very helpful because we can see where Bitcoin fits into this and kind of go over some historic data. So like I said, I think this would be a good time to go over the overall crypto market. I want us to revisit the past performance of the month of August in depth. I know I did a little bit in the last podcast, but I think it'll be important today. Let me turn off the noise. One moment. All right, I need to enjoy this chai while it's still hot. So good. We're going back to 2019. We're taking a time traveling ship back to 2019. And here we are. We have the automatic rally, then we have the month of August, effectively topping out on a lower high around August 6th. So the beginning of August, actually, you can see for most of the trading days, we were green leading into this pivot point. Now let's look at the moon. The moon cycle shows that between this new moon and topping out was exactly 5 trading days. That's what I teach you guys. That's pretty much in the typical, performance on the microcycles month by month. Now, going to reduce the noise. We're going to be going over to August new moon of this year. And that's important to think about because it's going to be on the 16th of Wednesday. We're just entertaining this idea of a 5-day window around August 16th, and that would give us through August 11th through the 21st. And we are considering pivot points on the third quarter moon and the first quarter moon. So make sure to keep that August 8th in mind, all right? And this is very interesting because on this chart right here, recently, you could see August 8th. Remember, we were talking about August 8th being kind of a pivot point concept, and I wanted to just show you this. We've been having this structure falling into this main support line, and August 8th is right there at this intersection. It's pretty interesting, right? This main support trend line that's been in play the entire year, and we just so happen to have this local trend line support form that pretty much formed recently, and we're doing a good job at respecting this line and intersects perfectly at August 8th, August 9th, which is this upcoming third quarter moon. Just wanted to throw that out there. I thought that was pretty interesting. All right. Now, if you look at the spring effect of touching that support, it's pretty quickly, actually. I mean, back in January, from here to getting into what could be considered like the horizontal range mean of the horizontal trading range that we moved into. I want to be simple here. I don't want to complicate things too much for you guys, but I just want to take the idea that the average of the range that we moved up into in the beginning of the year from January pretty much to February, you can see that it didn't take that long. It was about 14 days, and we got to this big green candle, which got us where I'm considering the data. Now, over here from this touch point over to when we got into the same range, took about 7 days on this green candle. Again, you could see it having the same effect as this candle right here where we stalled out. We did go higher, but we chopped around and then effectively did break lower down. Now, let's look at what we have here where we go from the last touch point over to the same thing, 6 days. You see what I'm doing here? So there seems to be a trend. We do keep gravitating back to this main support line, then we keep kind of blasting into a new range. It's like a stair step effect. And Bitcoin seems to be respecting this now, going on 8 months, So trend is your friend until it ends. Let's keep it simple here. If we were to consider this average between these 3 iterations, it would be somewhere around 8 to 9 days. So measuring off of the 8th of August over 8 to 9 days, look at where that brings you. August 16th to August 17th. That's your new moon, right? So just pretty interesting how that all lines up. And if we wanted to stretch this out to 14 days, which is like similar to this first iteration where it took a little bit longer, if I was to take off this pivot and bring it over 14 days, that brings us to the 22nd of August. And remember what I said earlier about that 5-day cycle around the new moon. So this gives us a really solid window between like August 15th through the 22nd. Let's check out the performance of Bitcoin back in 2020 in August, because we went over the 2019. Let's look at 2020. We can see this effect of us moving up until the 14th, 15th of August, just like I was talking about the 15th of August moments ago. This was, let me look at the moon cycle here. One second. No, I should be looking at 2020 is what I wanted to do. Excuse me. So you can see right here that we moved up into August 17th. We had our new moon right there on the 19th. Within 2 trading days, we topped out, and then we went down into the September full moon. So remember, we rise out of full moon into new moons, and then we fall out of full moons into new moons. And the moon cycle was very accurate, actually, in the years of 2019, 2020, 2021 specifically. It was a very clean indicator those years. But, it still works for the most part. We've just had to dial it in a little bit, with some nuances, because at the end of the day, we're in a Shemitah, which followed by a Jubilee. This only comes around every 50 years. And Bitcoin's only been trading for about, 13? So you have to be open-minded to that particular piece of information. We've only had so many of these events happen in the existence of the stock market, You go back 2 Jubilees ago, and it was like the 1920s. It was like... It's back in the roaring 20s, you feel me? And we're living through that event effect, not the roaring 20s, but we're living through Jubilee in this modern time right now. It's a completely different world compared to the 1970s, right? We all have to agree on that. It's dramatically different. Even in the past 15 years, it's dramatically different. And what we have now with artificial intelligence, I can't even imagine what the next 3 years are going to be like. Things are really speeding up. So just wanted to go back to August of 2020. We analyzed 2019. This is a little messy looking now. Let me turn all this off. No, that's not what I meant to do. There it is. Now, what I was just talking about over here, how we moved up into the 17th of August and then back here in 2019, moved up into the 6th. Over here in 2020, we moved up into the 15th. You can see that some of these dates are actually really close to each other of when Bitcoin's deciding to pivot. Now, in my opinion, 2021 is not so good to analyze because we were leading into the start of a Shemitah, which only comes around once every 7 years. But anyways, during August 2021, Bitcoin was effectively bullish the entire month. We moved up straight into Rosh Hashanah. This was the start of the Shemitah with this big red death candle, 11% to the downside, which then, really, if you look at the full pullback, it was about 24% over 2 weeks before springing up to a new high. So just, really what I'm trying to say here is that in 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, for those 4 years, we did have bullish energy for Bitcoin in the month of August, not for the whole month, but we did make new microcycle highs. And another trend for those past 4 years was that topping out on August led to us going down in September. So it was like August up, September down. That seems to be the trend in all of these iterations. So, of course, in my last presentation, the August Blue Moon Decoded, I shared a chart which broke down the performance of the stock market month by month and going back over 50 years with data for averaging out the past 20 years and the past 10 years. And what we specifically were looking at was the months of August and September. And the market shows negative returns. In plain English, the market was down during these months. Now, but a lot of the 10-year data actually doesn't include 2019 or 2020. So it's missing about 2 to 3 years of data. And with 10-year data set, that's like missing 20% to 33% of your data. Like not having a third of your data makes it inaccurate if we're trying to utilize it today. So, which is actually kind of important, especially since if we're just considering the last 10 years, we're advancing dramatically technologically, and the focus on the tech sector and innovation and AI, and it's like become in the, focus of modern investing, essence, if you will. But anywho, I found a recent chart that actually shows us the data. And what's great about this is you can see that this was published, shout out to Carson, whatever this investment research is. But yeah, we can see that it was posted the beginning of this year. right around when the stock market hit all-time highs, actually. Or no, excuse me, that's completely inaccurate. Disregard what I last said. I was thinking of 2020, 2021. But my point here is that we have better data. Now, what is really good about this is it shows pre-election year data. Now, that's what we're in right now. So I believe that this data is super helpful, family. Like, we're basically looking at data that is showing us pre-election year data, and it's updated. So it includes what the month of August, September, October have been like in the past 3 years as well. The next election being Super Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. What a joke. But anyways, getting back to this data, it's interesting since it shows August actually having slight returns, which is what we've been seeing with Bitcoin over the past 4 years. And then we have the same trend being down in the month of September, which we're aware of here in the Wolfpack. This has everything to do with Rosh Hashanah, the Hebrew New Year, and Yom Kippur. And I have another chart showing the same thing with pre-election year data. And this chart was also released in 2023. There you go, a little bit more updated. I wanted to try to get 2 charts so we have a couple of pieces of data to work with. And, you know, we can see that over the past 10 years, slightly positive results in August. But for pre-election years, you can see this navy blue bar. I mean, it's looking good. Now, again, we don't have... This should actually be pre-election year data going back all the way to the 1950s. Specifically, we have the green bar as the past 10 years, which we've only had 2 elections. Yes, that'd be correct. Anyways, we're just showing that August seems to do pretty well pre-election year. And that's where we're now. Now, hope you guys see the merit to this analysis because it's exoteric, but it is something we should consider, you know. September, even across the board, no matter what it is, typically low. So it's just, you know, wanted to share that with you guys because I think it's very, very helpful to see it in this way. Very, very simple, you know. I'm going to go ahead and delete these to save some room. Alrighty. Okay. Take a sip of chai, and then we're going to get into Worldcoin. All right, family. First things first, before we get into Bitcoin and those charts, I'm going to be decoding Worldcoin. A lot of my supporters have been reaching out to me about this, so I decided to cover it in today's podcast to build some foundation and prepare us for the implementation of more projects that will be similar to this. But we need a little bit of a disclaimer before we go down this rabbit hole. So remember, family, before we get into this gnosis, it's important you're aware that here we are decoders. We do not support or worship any of these technologies. We simply see them as a tool, while it is a weapon formed against the unconscious populace. And furthermore, there is no judgment against the masses by me making that statement. It just is what it is. And the apex predator that runs this show is aware of this because they are the ones that created it. So they know this entire market is driven by emotions. That's why it's so interesting how on a full moon, we have the statistics that clearly show an increase in crime on that day, increase of people dying from drug overdoses on that day. We hear the nurses and doctors talking about emergency room visits being way above average on a full moon. Corrections officers talking about prison guards breaking into fights randomly on that day for no reason, and more volatile behavior overall. Well, we're seeing something similar in the stock market around full moons, and I revealed this to the world almost 3 years ago. It's one of the big things that brought a lot of attention to what I share. I just want to, lay some foundation here because I think it's important, Here in the Wolfpack, we're aware of all of this stuff. We're open-minded to it all. And as decoders, we must stay clear while we analyze this code so we don't miscalculate because we're letting our emotions get in the way. It's important we start out here because this Worldcoin project stands for anti-freedom, basically. But if you only look at it from that perspective, you could fumble the opportunity. We saw what this did to Peter Schiff being anti-Bitcoin since it was trading at $10 back in 2012, all while supporting gold, which gold is only up 18% since 2012. And Bitcoin is up 240,000% since then. So 1 ounce of gold invested in Bitcoin back then would be worth $4.6 million today. This could effectively purchase 2,300 ounces of gold today. That's 65 kilos of gold. That's like almost how much I weigh. 10 years ago, it was just a tiny coin in my pocket. And if you never decided to take this opportunity in small amount to diversify, well, then it's still just a tiny coin in your pocket today. Again, no one is telling you to bet the farm here. A little goes a long way for a sophisticated investor with an open-minded approach at developing an investment thesis. And now, I'm not here to argue the better investment, and I'm not saying that gold is a bad investment because I'm aware it serves its purpose in that individual's investment thesis. But it's this mindset that I should disregard this opportunity, quote unquote, of a new idea and be so against it, while at the end of the day, the worst investment of all time for an individual like Peter Schiff was actually not investing a little bit in Bitcoin. And it's sad because he's actually clearly a very intelligent man, but his pride is the cross he bears. It's this maxi mindset that I'm allergic to. Chief Wolf is just trying to find the opportunities and take action if it aligns with my overall investment thesis. That is all, because that is how I continue to serve my purpose. It's this maxi mindset that shows that the individual is being used as an instrument to serve that company, that organization, or that conglomerate's purpose as a useful servant. So now that we have that spicy foundation laid out, let's get on to decoding this psyop. And I just wanted to say that all because I know some people are going to be like, well, if this thing stands for slavery, then why? Okay. That's the same thing we heard back when Bitcoin was $10. You could have put very little in it. You could have profited handsomely, and you could have used those profits to create projects that could change people's lives for the better. Just look at it as an opportunity. That's what makes you a wolf. We're not bulls. We're not bears. We don't hate it, date it. We just trade it. Let's leave it there. Okay, so again, Worldcoin. Thoughts? Because I can't do any TA on this. There is no chart data to work with. But right off the bat, we have trident symbolism. Okay? We're going to go over to Pisces. We have Neptune. This is going to be lit, fam. You could see Neptune's symbol, the trident. Okay? So right off the bat, we have that in the symbology. We have the trident right there. I'm doing this right now live with you guys. This is not scripted whatsoever, by the way. We're real ones here. So we got the trident in the logo, again tied to Poseidon, Neptune symbolism, mythological god of the sea, the ocean, and you can see the sea in this logo right there. This is for currency, C, right? And this logo kind of has the same vibe as like the Chicago Cubs logo. if you want to see where I'm coming from with this idea of finding the letter C within this Worldcoin logo. Well, also remember the word world. World is word, which is comprised of frequencies, C. Remember, God said, "Let there be light." That is the architect speaking frequency into the simulacrum. So this Worldcoin logo is a circle. It is a ball. It looks like a basketball, honestly, which again is tied back to Pisces symbolism. You could see that right there in the Pisces symbol. That is the basketball, the aesthetics of what a basketball looks like. Because basketball, you could break this down. It is Ba. There's 3 parts of the soul in the ancient Egyptian mythology. It's the Ka, the Ba, and the Aku. So you have Ba. And then you have Sket, which is Ske, which is sky. Then you have Baal, Baal, Lord of Lords, King of the Gods. This is Jupiter. Jupiter rules the age of Pisces, alongside Neptune, effectively. So again, Neptune, king of the sea, king of the ocean, where the fish dwell. This is all tied together. This Worldcoin obviously has Piscean symbology. It's obvious. We have the trident, everything else that I just brought up. Remember, in basketball, they throw the ball into the net, like when you catch the fish. It's all symbolism. All right. So let's get into some of the code, shall we? Got Worldcoin. Okay, so we're getting the 38. The 38 is 3 8s. 3 8s. 8, 8, 8. 8 plus 8 plus 8 is 24. 24 is the logo of Jupiter. Another Jupiterian connection. That's your 24. Okay, so we got the 888 in the code. That's big. We see that often. Also, 38 reduces to the master number 11. So that's big too. The 1 in 1. 1 in 1 has everything to do with like a restart of energy, like Genesis 1:1. So I believe that's telling part of the story here with that reduction. Let's break this down a little more. Okay, world has the master number 22, 72, like Bitcoin, 72, like money is 72 and 22, like world, because world is word and word is frequency, currency. It's all, again, oceanic. It's all sea, water symbolism. That's why the company that you guys are mostly interested in is called Ripple, because it's the ripple effect. It's water. It's all Piscean. All right, let's break it down a little bit more. We have one part of the world, world, and then coin. Okay, so coin giving you 41, that's the 13th prime. That 1-3 is very big. Ticker symbol is WLD, which is 13 Chaldean. Okay, we got a tie in there. Okay. Let's go back to Worldcoin because I'm seeing this 113, and that's the 30th prime, if I remember. Yep. Okay, 30th prime, which is okay. I'm seeing it now. I got it. 113, 30th prime. This reduces down to 3 again. That's the Trinity. That again ties us back to the logo, the trident, 3 symbolism. I could see it right here. Upper half, bottom half, center point, 3. Trinity symbolism, merger of worlds. That requires a spiritual component between the 2 polarities. Masculine, feminine, you need spirit. And then she delivers creation through her womb. Womb is matrice, that is matrix. Okay. Now, This is a little freaky. If this really represents the world based on the exoteric nonsense map that they give us of what the world looks like, this connection from the top right side down to here, this could be telling a story. This could be Russia in this part. That's how I would quickly perceive this. This is Russia, and when you come down to here, you're in what we call Oceania. Now again, consider this term Oceania. It's tied to the oceans, which ties us back to Poseidon and Neptune. This is a story they're telling here in the symbolism. Well, perhaps this is what is happening here. The blockchain will be rolled out on the world stage. Russia is obviously in the conversation. We have BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And those three key players of Russia, China, and India, which is a majority of the population of the world, especially when you include that carved out area of the Worldcoin logo, which would be tying us back into this point here with Indonesia and Philippines. It's a lot of people. But I think if this is the case, this is covering most of the populated world as we know it. So getting back to the symbolism, we have the black and white. That's the chessboard. We have the subconscious and the conscious mind. It's the black and white squares or black and white cubes. Now, from what I know about this project, from what I know, based off of some quick research, this was started by Sam Altman, who is the co-founder and the current CEO of OpenAI, which is the company that launched ChatGPT. Oh my God, there you go. OpenAI 27. Jupiter 27. Same cipher. You got 33s in both of them too, and the 30s Trinity. Because it's not going to be about Father, Son, Holy Spirit, or Father, Mother, Child anymore. It's going to be about the AI component. Artificial intelligence is going to play the mediator between humans moving forward. It's really fascinating how this is all tied into this project. So this guy, Sam Altman, and his team are the ones to be used by the apex predator to give this technology to the masses. Things like ChatGPT. He's been given full reign to be the guy to do this. He's kind of the one who's getting all the prana for this stuff, if you guys know what I mean. He's being given the good old Elon treatment right now, compared to back in the day when the self-driving car thing was just becoming part of our conversation, you know? We're in a different space now, but you guys see where I'm going with this. Like, if we could rewind back to the self-driving car conversation and then put us to today, to where we're at with just launching ChatGPT and the world getting used to this. I mean, at first it wasn't fully accepted with open arms, but then they found a way to like make Elon into a hero. The same thing they're going to do with this guy, Sam Altman. So just be aware of what I'm saying right now. He's literally going to be given the Elon treatment. So another thing I know about this project, done some quick search into it over here, is that it's ERC20. So it's on Ethereum. That's a red flag for retail right there. But for me, and the way that I think, coming back to my own investment thesis, I don't think ETH is going anywhere. And I believe the apex predator is making the ETH network all bogged down and have these insane fees for a reason, to essentially piss off retail on purpose. And it was built to have that flaw. And people who don't know what I'm talking about right now, you have to look into something that's called planned product obsolescence. It's what Apple does with everything they make. They have the next 10 to 20 years planned out regarding their product launches and the software updates, and they commit to coming out with new versions of a lot of their product line every year with slight updates. This way they actually create the product to have flaws or bugs, so that when the new product is ready to launch, you're enticed to buying that device. It's a classic scheme. It's called planned product obsolescence. They do the same thing with cars. Like, once it starts getting close to like 60, 70, 80,000 miles, you start to see things like going wrong. And I'm talking about new cars, by the way. The older stuff, it wasn't like that. So this is not just what Apple does. They all do this. Tesla is a great example of this as well. And that's the whole point in moving forward with everything being a computer. So anyways, this Worldcoin will revolve around something I quickly read called World ID. Fuck that mess. I see exactly where this is going. So social credit, can I get an amen? You know. But seriously, though, I have a feeling this Sam Altman guy is going to be used just like Elon is used to push all of these agendas to the masses in a way that makes them feel good about themselves and confident when they accept it and use these technologies, whilst the worker is slowly replaced day by day. That's the truth. It will go from a room that is once filled with 20 employees down to a room of 2 people who are using AI to delegate those other 18 people's worth of tasks to. And then in the next year, this stuff will be so advanced that it'll just be an empty room with only computers doing their thing and a remote worker who will control it all, removing the managerial team in the process. And the CEOs continue to make bank and increase their margins significantly because they've cut back immensely on wages. So this is what's funny about it, though, is those same people that are bowing at the feet of the Elons and the Sam Altmans will be dumpster diving in a couple years. It's sad. And I'm not judging those who lose their job or making fun of people who are looking through the trash for food. That's tragic that it gets to that. But what I am pointing out is the worship of these individuals when those who worship are completely unaware of the intentions of these technocrats. That's really what I'm pointing out here. They're worshiping false idols, and the intentions of these technocrats is one thing: profit. That's all. So as for my thoughts on Worldcoin, I'll need to revisit this when I have some chart data. It looks like it just launched on some exchanges to be publicly traded about a week ago, like literally right after I released my last Red Pill podcast. I'll need about 6 months of data to really dive into this thing. But now, because of the team behind it and the fact that it already is up to 270 million market cap, yeah. That's pretty significant. So I might keep an eye on this one more frequently to see if I see any chart structure forming in the meantime. And of course, we have Q4 of this year, which could be rough for speculative assets, particularly for the most volatile asset, which is crypto, and even more specifically to new altcoins that haven't built any long-term support in their charts. And, one last thing to say about this is I did not actually hear about this project from the masses. It didn't seem to have that memery like something like a Shiba Inu or Pepe. So clearly the global elite are involved in this project, but they aren't making a bunch of noise about it, which supports my interest in this project, actually. It's something that makes me want to look into it a little bit more because of that. So it's kind of like they're allowing the ones who know to find it. And if you know, you know. But it's not being pushed in the face like something like Pepe was. So, but I just personally can't invest in something like this in this particular environment. I'm a very patient wolf, and I wait to bet on my fighters, and not after they win, but I want to see how they get back up after they get knocked down for the first time. That's a big part of how I develop my personal investment thesis. So there's your Decode family. This Worldcoin obviously has Jupiterian symbolism. And we're moving into the year of Jupiter next year, being the Hebrew year 5784, 5784, again giving you that 24. 24 is the Jupiter zodiac logo. This is the year of the dragon, which breathes fire. Fire symbolism is tied to the lightning bolt, the symbol of Jupiter. The 24th letter in the alphabet is X. And we have the Great American Eclipse from October 14th this year until April 8th of next year, which forms an X over the United States of America. This is why Elon changed Twitter to X Corp in preparation for the year 2024. Again, also sharing the black and white symbolism like Worldcoin. You guys have seen Twitter's update. It has the same kind of black and white symbolism. Same as Worldcoin. Black and white symbolism. Same as XRP. Also OpenAI, Stellar Lumens, Hedera, Algorand, IOTA. We also need to keep an eye on anything with a lightning bolt or fire symbolism for next year. But with all this black and white symbolism moving into the year 2024, this tells me that it will be the year of psyops. Okay, I know you thought the psyops were running rampant this year and during the C-19 pandemic, but no, get ready for 2024. It's probably going to be packed. I mean, I would not be surprised if there's some big thing that occurs with alien agenda. You know, it's not going to be real. It's going to be the government and their military who do it to us. It'll be an inside job. You heard it here first. So specifically from September 2023 this year until September 2024 will be the time frame for a majority of these psyops. And if I could really concentrate it down, it would be between March 2024, which is the true New Year, to September 2024. So from March till September of next year, with a focus on April specifically for an event on the world stage. And my exact date is April 15th, 2024. You've heard me say it before. I'm not going to change that. I do believe a ritual will happen on that day. Take notes, family. This is some serious gnosis being shared here. So with all of these connections in today's decode, I'd imagine Worldcoin will be in a good posture for the later half of 2024. As for anything tied back to artificial intelligence, especially at the ChatGPT level, like the Sam Altman level, you know, it's like getting to bet on Elon when Tesla stock first started out, or getting to bet on Apple when they were first starting out. So, you know, this could be an opportunity to build a conservative position as soon as Q4 this year, end of this year. And that's not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I also do not support this project, and I do not support any of this blockchain agenda. I'm just taking action on the opportunities that present themselves without having any emotions tied to it. I'm a wolf. I know when I need a hunt, and I also know when I come across some bear tracks. And if I'm alone, I know how to find somewhere to be safe before I get ambushed by a group of bears. So this is the mindset to create generational wealth while keeping your emotions on the real day-to-day life, not focused on this market. That's really the words of wisdom for generational wealth creation. It's not just about money, it's about all forms of currency. Your prana is everything. So I hope you guys enjoyed this decode. I could totally see the setup here. Trident, Jupiterian, X, you know, this is probably going to be big. So opportunity is how I see it. Let me move into Bitcoin. I know this is a long podcast, but we needed to get all this out. This is critical, crucial information. And I just really appreciate you guys. I'm super grateful for the support, you know, so giving you the best value I can is always on the top of my priorities list. I want to get over to this weekly close for Bitcoin because it's going to be a bi-weekly. So bi-weekly close coming in later today. We have holding the 8 simple moving average is pretty nice. We haven't back tested it since we effectively broke out. We have the 55 simple and 8 simple squeezing together, clearly losing volatility. We have all of our key EMAs below us, and we actually have a very important cross. Let me turn this off. We have a potential cross of the 13 EMA above the 34. I love to see that. That's crucial. We have not had that posture since March 2022. Yeah. And if we analyze the last time we started to see the 13 cross above, that ended up being a pivotal point for us in recovery and entering on a new bull cycle. You could see that flip right there, bull run. You could see that flip right there, bull run. You could see that flip effectively right there, still bull run, regardless of this anomaly. This was a black swan event. Seeing a flip of these EMAs on a bi-weekly chart has always been a signal that we're going to maintain structure, keep a moving bull run. Okay, so I like to see that. That's really nice. Let's get to the weekly. Weekly's looking gorgeous. We have the 13 above the 21 above the 34, all spread out pretty nicely. We could see kind of a similar effect going back here. Could see a similar effect also here, even though we had the anomaly. Now, this is always alarming. When we have on the weekly this band cross to the downside where the 34 actually gets back above the 13, that's a huge warning signal. So until then, things are looking pretty neutral. Things are fine. Wouldn't get too worried about it. If I was to remove all of those EMAs and just look at the weekly, 8 simple is holding support. Beautiful. I really like to see that. Now, of course, we would like to see back above 31,000. But until then, we're just still in the same horizontal trading range we've been in for 130 days. Pretty wild to see how sideways this is. But the more sideways it is at these levels, we do get to watch some of these key moving averages on macro timeframes start to slope to the upside. I really like seeing that 55 sloping up now, especially if it gets back above 24K, because this will maintain a macro higher low structure, still maintenance of the overall bull trend. All right, I'm going to actually finish up with the daily analysis because we don't have any 5-day or 3-day closures until after August starts. Let me look at the monthly. What am I doing? I went straight to the bi-weekly. We have a monthly close coming up very soon, tomorrow night. Okay, we have one of the most important crosses of all time, which is the 8 above the 55 simple. That's a wolf cross with bullish trajectory. Oh, yeah. Okay. So let me turn off this, and we have clear data. That's very important. We're about to have the 13 cross above the 34 on the monthly chart. Huge. Now, seeing these flip into bull posture is incredible. Like, I mean, we saw the flip back here, bull trend, saw the flip back here. Actually, we didn't even flip. Technically, we held. Wow, this cycle was very deceiving. I see so many moments where I'm like, this moment right here, where selling climax to automatic rally to this black swan, it really skewed the data, like if you're looking at smaller time frames. But when you zoom out on the monthly, bi-monthly, and quarterly, you get a much better picture. You know, it almost becomes absent. You don't even point that out. You're really just looking at the extremes in the data. Anywho, that was just a side note. Monthly's looking solid. Even coming to backtest the 28,000 level would be on a support. Yeah, I mean, we are above all the key moving averages. If you continue to close above the key moving averages, that's good, because then you just look to them as a support. Yeah, really not much to say here besides it would be nice to get a little bit more bullish momentum. Because of being trapped sideways so long isn't really that fun. It's boring. It's almost like I would rather us just make a move. You know, go to 25 or go to 35. Like, make your mind up. I'm sure a lot of people agree with that sentiment. Okay, now this is the daily. This is getting a little dicey here. So what we have is, yeah, we're closing below all the key moving averages. We have this 55 sloping to the upside, making its way to about 29K right now. That's good, especially with these 200s below us sitting around 27. So that holds higher low structure because we have right there the back test on March 10th. 200 SMA was tested. 200 EMA was tested, both sloping to the upside. And now these are higher. So again, if we were to have any pullbacks, these would be your line of the line in the sand. You really would not want to start closing below those. One second, I need some chai. Yeah, the moment I finish this podcast, I'm going to get another one of these chais. It's so good. I need to go buy some cardamom and ginger and just make it myself. Anyways, we are looking pretty good, but I do not like how we're like, it's this 55 simple that is getting too close to the 8 simple, and I don't want that cross to happen. That 8 below the 55 is not the best. And we're watching all of the key EMAs sloping to the downside. 8 is sloping to the downside. Our main moving averages, the 55 and 200s, are maintaining this upper. Yeah, daily's really needing to make some choice. Let me look at the Bollinger Bands because that's what it's making me. Okay, this slight expansion. Yeah, I don't like seeing the bottom band crossing below that 55 like that. Yeah. We saw the same shit happen over here, which led to we had that deeper correction March 10th right on the 55. Sorry, on the 200 simple. So if we were to repeat that, that'd be pretty interesting. That would break that really important support trend line, though. Let's look at this. This right here comes down to 28.5. If we were to close below 28,500 on the daily, not only would we be invalidating this support that's been holding now for about over a month, but we would also be breaking a trend line that's effectively been in play for over 220 days. That would not be good also. But the thing that happens sometimes, and this is not hopium, family, this is by no means hopium, but we have an event like this. Like, let's just say we were to have a sell-off into the 382. We're going to pull a fib. We're going to make sure that this fib is actually set to, yeah, exactly. We don't want it on log. Now we have something like this. You see where that 382 is? I'm looking for the drawing tool, excuse me. There it is. So we have a breakdown, can't hold, go to the bottom of the 382, come back up and actually come up into the golden pocket and get rejected on the outside of that trend line and then a deeper correction. Now, if we were to do that, that would be, yeah. That would be kind of what happened in this time frame, I think. And also, I've seen this iteration come up a couple times too, where we get this crown top, like a really big distributional top. Be weird, but that's something to consider. And this is me just being honest with everyone. Like, if we were to break below that 28.5 level right there, I know this is kind of hard to see. Pick the marker by mistake. But like this. Let me zoom in locally. Okay, we're trading, break down to the 382 and then come back up like an inverse head and shoulders thing, and then boom, pop up to the outside of this trend line and then fold over. That would be your double top in the structure. A rejection on the outside of the trend line where it used to be holding as a support, now confirming it as a resistance, and still the opportunity to de-risk at 31K. So 31K could, like, I'm just being honest here, something we have to consider. We can't shut down these ideas. You know, we just have to be considerate of them. Now, let's go over to this other chart, which is going to be uncomfortable, but it's a firmament chart that I got this prepared for you guys. Very interesting and unique analysis to consider that I'm excited to share with you all. But we have a firmament dome that started back on November 2022. And it's pretty clean to me. You could see the rejection, all these rejections, again, April right there on the solar eclipse, another rejection coming back down, gravitating right back up. And this is a clean arc. You can see how clean this is. This is not me fudging the data to make it fit a bias. This is a clean firmament. And if you've never seen this before, I used to do this type of analysis about a year ago, just we haven't really had the opportunity to do it on many things since. But to me, after this rejection, I started to notice this natural curve, and I thought, okay, let me try to put a firmament arc in it. And it, wow, like, it's pretty clean. So we have two scenarios here. One, we burst out of the firmament and we head to our next level, which would be the CME gap. Talked about this a billion times. But you have your CME gap sitting here around 35,000. That would be effectively your next level up. Or you come into this firmament again and start to bash on the outside of it, okay? And then you just follow it down. Now, the really messed up thing, this is where it gets really messed up, is we can actually go up to like 35, 36, fill the gap, and then we could come down off of it and then boom, touch the outside. And then come up slightly. And then boom, correction on the outside. And follow this shit down to 30 to 21,000 again. It start treating it as an outside support. I mean, people think that this stuff is crazy, but anyone that was following my work back here, you remember this moment, this firmament dome that we had. It's going to be really difficult for me to create this right now off the cuff, but it was something like along these lines. Oh, actually, we used the perfect one for right here. It was something like this. I remember vividly how it was. I don't have the time to adjust it and make it all fancy, but it was like this, family. We were getting rejected on every new all-time high. Then we broke out of it. And when we broke out of it, we started to backtest the outside of it. Okay, so like you kind of get the idea here. You know, it's not the cleanest thing on earth, but it does give you, wow, I mean, right there, it's very clean. It's unbelievable, right? Rejection, all-time high, rejection, pretty much coming into it on the new all-time high, back testing the outside, bull trap coming to test on it so many days in a row. I mean, look at that final touch point. I don't know if we made it all the way extending it to the bottom. I could try to, no, it's not going to let me. And that's going to mess up a lot of the data, and we don't have a ton of time here. But pretty interesting concept that could still happen, where we get outside of it, fill the upper CME gap, even coming up into 38 or something, and then trading on the outside. But we have the inside crashing against the dome, which is what NASA does. And then we have what Bitcoin could do. So keep this stuff in mind, family. I think this is a really experimental and fun TA. I like to play around with it. I'm still, feeling intuitively that we should be moving up to fill that upper CME gap. Like we should really be at least getting to these levels. I mean, it's really weird to watch the stock market doing what it's doing and it not bleed over into Bitcoin. So we're going to go to Ethereum. Okay, ETH, it's the same story as last time. I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit. It's pretty clean. Support line. It's the same story. I can't really update you guys too much on Ethereum right now because of it's not doing anything for real. Let me just look at the monthly close, kind of talk a little bit about that with only moving averages and our data. Okay, we have RSI sitting there directly at 50, like right there on the neutral zone. We have holding the 8 simple, that's good. We have the 8 and 55 in a bullish posture. And this is obvious now. Okay, so we can see all the key EMAs are holding. We could have a little bit more bounce here. Given the way that these EMAs are set up, so that's nice. Look at the bi-weekly. Okay, yeah, the bi-weekly is telling me a story, and at best, I think that 55 simple on the bi-weekly chart would be a solid level if we're going to move one more leg up, but that's asking a lot right now. 55 simple on the weekly has started to bounce to the upside, and we're seeing it cross above the 200s. That's really good. I actually like to see that. This should give us a solid support at 1600 if we're going to get a pullback. So keep that in mind right there. Those three EMAs, EMA of the 55 and 200, and then the SMA 200. That's important. Yeah, nothing really to say about the daily. We're just chugging along again. Horizontal trading range has effectively been in play for over 100, 110, 115 days now. So if we break above 2025, we're moving up to the prior high around 2100. And if we start to break below, it's clear that there's a little buy wall here at 1800. If we were to break below 1800, I would keep my eye on the 200 simple moving average on the daily for a rejection. It's clear support, clear support. Consider that if we're going to get a pullback. Okay, now XRP, we're going to go to the biweekly. We don't got a ton of data. Let me actually take this off. Okay, this is really good. This cross is different. You can see right here when we flipped with the blue above the red with the 13 above the 34, that was a nice move up. Same shit right here. I mean, it just skyrocketed up, so that's not really a fair example, but that's in the process of happening pretty much right now. We've already had the 13 get above the 34. That's a really bullish cross, and now we have the 21 coming up close to the 34. And because of how quick this move happened at this bi-weekly close that's coming in tonight, this should fix that data, and this could be a full-blown bullish posture. So that's a good thing. We have the 55 sitting around 61 cents. That was the support level that I shared in my last YouTube video when I talked about, I said, you know, if we don't have a way of holding that level, we're coming back into the 50s. That's fucked up. All right, let's look at the weekly or the monthly. Yeah, the monthly were just green candle, so obvious. You guys know what that is. Continuation, but XRP is a weird one. I would really like to see these 200s get broken by the 55. Again, another signal that came in back on some big moves for XRP, but the data here is wonky. It's hard to look at this coin in this perspective, particularly because of the way it likes to move. So I'm actually just going to go straight to a chart that I was thinking about recently, which is right here, and I want to examine the 4 hour. This will be more fun for our analysis on XRP today. So we have a little bit of a Wyckoff schematic at play here. We have your buying climax right there at around 94 cents. You have your selling climax right there around 67 cents. You have this rally up into this marked off zone. That's your automatic rally. Then we sold off deeper on 4 hour closes than we were back here in the selling climax, which to me labels this as a spring. And right now we're in a test, which is in the process of potentially breaking up into an SOS. So let me put on these moving averages, and you can see right now that we've gotten rejected off the 55 simple on the 4 hour in the last 4 hour attempt. When we start to close 4 hours above the 55, and then we get this yellow moving average, the 8 simple, to cross above the 55, that's a wolf cross that is very bullish for us. So this could be what motivates that move up into an effective SOS, getting that wolf cross of the 8 above the 55 on the 4 hour chart to get started. And this can send us on a retest into 80 cents, particularly like around 82. And that could break above the AR levels. So we see right here on the white lines that I put across the screen, they're aligned perfectly with the 618. Getting into the golden pocket, 82, 83 cents to 87, 88 cents would be kind of the idea here. So something like this. You break into the golden pocket, that's your SOS. Then you have continuation after that, after a little backup phase. Backup phase is typical to play around in the golden pocket. So that would be if we get bullish. That's very positive, but that's a Wyckoff schematic that tends to play out. And what would invalidate all of this is obviously 4 hour closures below this red line, which I have mapped out here around 68 cents. This could be in alignment with touching on the 200. So we just have to see when this occurs and how it all goes down. But ultimately, if we were to open up some 4-hour candles above this 55 simple, I think that would give us the push. That would definitely give us the push. Getting back above 73 cents, above this 236. That's a structural, place to start expecting us to move up. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's a classic Wyckoff example. Let's get over to Near Protocol. It's been some time, I think, since I've looked at this one. Okay, I have done TA on in the past. Great. Oof. Okay, so couple the red flags immediately. We don't have any data during the C19 crash. I really like that to be in the charts. I mean, it's even better if it had a prior cycle, but no C19 data. It doesn't really feel good to me because I'm not sure how this thing gets knocked down and then gets back up, which I talked about earlier. Like the analogy of betting on fighters, like it's not about how many people they knock out and how many wins they accumulate. It's really about like, what's your chin like? Like, can you get knocked out and then get back up? Like, where's your heart? Yeah, this is boxing terminology, but I think it's what matters more. The reason why Buffett is such a just phenomenal investor over the long term is because he knows that Coca-Cola can get punched in the jaw a million times. Scandals could come up. I mean, we know that drinking high fructose corn syrup juice is bad for us. It doesn't fucking matter. It continues to do. It's a legacy company. It's not going anywhere. So that's what's smart about that investment thesis is it's about how do they deal with these catastrophes and economic cycles, etc. And people are addicted to it. So there's that. But anyways, my point here is that that's a big red flag for me. No C19 data. Now, it did have a good run if you got in right away. I mean, yeah, multiple thousands of percent, but this led to a sell-off of effectively 94%. And I do not like how it has been at a new lower low recently. That's another sign of weakness. It's in this mapped out trading range, which I don't know when I put it on my chart. It must be a long time ago because I don't even remember when I went over this last. But here's my issue, okay? You can see that this was a touch point before going into the buying climax. Then after the buying climax, double top, we came right back down to that white trend line. Then we broke below it. And lately, ever since we broke through it last time in June, we've started to come up to it and getting rejected. That's confirming it as a resistance. So if this thing's going to fall down again, which is more than likely into the end of this year, it's going to come back to 75 cents. And then wow, really scary place to be because there's no data before being at 75 cents. So it could continue on price discovery to the downside. It could start breaking into 50, 40, 30, etc. Like clearly the retail investor is out of this project. So just be very, keep your emotions on the sidelines here. What I'm saying is just the truth in what we're seeing in these charts. This is not optimism. This is hopium. Okay, so I'd be careful with stuff like this. Again, venture capital at best. Not enough chart history to bet the farm on. A little bit in the bag is fine, but there's still an opportunity for another 45% move down. And it's not looking like it wants to AR. Like this thing can continue deeper, more deep into a selling climax before it has a true AR. And I have a feeling that a lot of the stuff like this, guys, is only going to AR in a macro cycle moving into the next bull run, which is a huge opportunity, by the way. But it's just when we think of new all-time highs, it might not be happening. So here's the theory, right? I talked about it with something like Stellar Lumens and XRP, where we did not get a new all-time high. But what we did see was XRP went down to like 11, 12 cents and then went on to go to almost $2. That was still a great opportunity. So let's just say this thing comes down to 75 cents, weird. So it does this. Its next all-time high might only make it to here, to 10. That's the, not all-time high, I'm sorry, cycle high. When Bitcoin goes up into price discovery, this thing still might be at a lower high compared to back here. You can't say that that's not possible because we watched it happen with XLM. We watched it happen with Monero. We watched it happen with Dash. I mean, it happened with Litecoin. It happened with a lot of stuff, okay? So just keep that in mind, that this is a very, I think, sophisticated way of looking how the next cycle can go for some of this stuff like this that just doesn't have the chart history to prove that it could do what it does. And it was launched at the right place and the right time. That's all, really. And off of this moment right here, you're still looking at a potential 1,000% gain. So it's opportunity, but it's like, how much do you really, really want to bet on this in this new environment before we get regulated? That's what would make me go, okay, I'm not really that interested, regardless of that opportunity. Because there's going to be tons of coins that go up 1,000% in the next cycle. That's typical in crypto. Now, I think what people want to know is what are going to be the 10,000% gains and 100,000%. Well, this might be the last cycle that's coming up that we could do that. And you want to be open-minded to the stuff like what we just talked about before, the Worldcoin type shit, We do have one more opportunity for some memery, in the next cycle, but I just don't know how regulated we're going to get between now and then. Between now and the next Bitcoin halving, a lot could go down. I think you guys who follow along my work are well aware of this. We're going to go to Digibyte. Okay, so similar situation, new lows into the month of June, not looking good, perpetual downtrend. Now, the one difference about Digibyte, though, is look what this was your C19 lows, and we have data going on before that. Now, look at this chart structure, how we have all-time high back in 2017, big sell-off, then we get a bull trap, slightly high, all-time high. This is, I think, kind of like what Zilliqa did. So similar. Okay, so you can see after multiple cycles, this stuff becomes very difficult to determine like what's going on. And if you just buy the oversold, anything below critical key macro support, it's still opportunity. Like, look, 2,000% again, kind of what I shared in the last example on Near Protocol. It's like the same idea, essentially. I mean, we didn't really stay above that golden pocket territory for more than just a couple weeks before we went on a perpetual sell-off. So this is proof with everything I just said about Near and the idea. It's right here in the Digibyte chart. It's the same thing. So yeah, Digibyte is not looking good because it's coming back to the C19 level trading range that lasted, about 200 days. And here we're kind of in a similar essence, the same amount of time, and we still have to get through Q4. So yeah, this is a cool trend line though that I plotted out a while back. By the way, we're looking at the weekly chart and we could see clear as day rejection off all-time high, bull trap rejection, another lower high rejection. Then here we got outside of it and started trading on the outside. So this doesn't help us more than just to say we cleared this resistance. And it's also proof that anyone who sits their TA priorities on trend lines being the number one thing, stop watching what they're doing. It's bullshit. That you need to start making trend lines like secondary, or what I do, it's like a tertiary part of my analysis. And I've been very open about that for a long time. I like this style of data, but horizontal trading ranges are where it's at. That's where Wyckoff method has an edge on a lot of these things, that these just lines that everyone's drawn all over the place. These horizontal lines that I'm mapping out have a lot of purpose. They have a lot of meaning, and they're extremely useful. If we plotted out this support from 2019 in September, we know that it was a crucial level because we get 1 touch point, 2 touch points before all-time high, coming down into it again. You could know that this is a crucial level. And when we broke below it, this gave us our future support and oversold level 4 years in the future. That's why it's so important to look at horizontal levels. This trend line wouldn't have done shit for you over here, really. But it's the same kind of vibe. You see what this did? All-time high, rejections. We went outside of it, arduous trading to the downside, popped off of it, still had a black swan event. That's your C19 crash. Boom, pop. But what was the most important piece of this? It was there. It was your SOS. It wasn't this fucking trend line. This trend line, you wouldn't have known when to buy off of it. Do I buy now? Do I buy now? Do I buy now? It's perpetually down. And it was going on for fucking 300 days. You see where I'm coming from, family? Like, I'm really trying to help here. I know it's a little spicy, but that's just my style. So yeah, the Digi does have this, I believe. Oof, no, that's fucked. That's real bad. I mean, oof. Okay, yeah, I don't like that. Support. Boom. C19 crash. Support up until recently. And then the rejections on the outside of it there are ugly. So that means you're going to have to follow this for the future. For sure. Let me turn off this and make it a line chart and see if, yeah, that's clean. For sure on the starting point of that data. And it's still working to this day on a logarithmic chart. Wow. Epic. So in the future, you want to look to the outside of this for some extreme data. If we're going to get a bull run into 2024 past summertime, from the spring into fall, winter, you're looking at like a 5 cent. So if we were to correct down into these levels into the end of the year, these deeper levels, I mean, yeah, it's about 1,000%, but yeah, then you have a really it's a trapped trading range. This had its time in the sun, I wouldn't be banking too much on this moving forward, unless some excitement comes back to it, but I don't think, I've just kind of personally given up on this. That's why it would be venture capital for me. I probably have a tiny little bag of this, like 1%. But yeah, I know we had our say on the trend lines, but this is a pretty important trend line to consider. Until we start breaking back above it and trading back above it, I mean, it's going back to 2014. It's pretty damn important. Yeah, not too much to say on this, besides there is a possibility of 003 coming into play later in the year. And if this wants to have a little bit of a rally, I would look to the 1016 level or perhaps the 382. But then we would actually get above the trend line if that timing worked out. Yeah, I'm not super bullish on this. Just consider that if you're holding on to it, to be maybe just continue to be patient. This is one of those. You guys know how it goes. Okay, we're going to wrap this up with Tron. Okay. Lots of data here. We know that. Have I done analysis on this? I must have covered this in the past, but probably a long time ago. So this is going all the way back to 2017. This is your C19 crash, effectively right around here. We are up 600% since then, 589. Yeah, we're up almost 600% since then. So that's good. From buying climax to selling, 74%. Fuck, that's really good, actually. Weird time to hit an all-time high. Oh, no, excuse me. I'm looking at the weekly. That's what's messing me up. Okay, well, we know it liked to follow alts because it went up right there into this first Bitcoin all-time high, perfectly topped out. Then it's been on a downtrend since, but this is a time to pay attention because we're, wow, this has only dropped 74%. That's rare. Okay, yeah, this is not bad at all. This is an exciting chart to look at. Daily, 200s are sloping to the upside. We have everything in bullish posture. Everything in bullish posture on the EMAs. Let's go to the 2-day. Same story. Very nice. 3-day. Very, yes. 5-day. Beautiful. Weekly. Insane. Okay, 200 sloping to the upside. Clear critical support back here. Yeah, this is good. This is a good looking chart. Some big sell-offs over the past couple days, though. I'm not entirely sure why. What metrics are tied to this? I don't know much about Tron. The red and white symbolism kind of is wacky, though. I don't know how red's going to do next year. Tesla's red and white. Avalanche is red and white. Got to think about that kind of stuff. Symbolism is important, And when I say I don't know, I'm literally saying I don't know. I'm not saying it's positive or negative. I just don't know at this time. I have to decode it. But yeah, this is a huge trading range, and this could effectively be your automatic. Yeah, this is an automatic rally. Yep. I would go ahead and say that this is automatic rally. This did an automatic rally all the way back here. That's like what Quant did, I think. I think it's Quant that did that shit. Yeah, look, Quant did this automatic rally isolated from everything else. Those are possible, of course. So getting back to Tron, this does look like an AR to me. And this recent move down, double bottom style, and how it's moving up past this, that's not the actual 236. Let me change this. We have to do it on log scale. I'm going to slightly move this just to get that data, but it's ultimately the same. Actually, no. I like that more. Multiple touch points. 1, 2, 3. We're above the 382. That's my condition. We're heading into the 0.5. This is in an automatic rally. If you wanted to look at it the way that we've been looking at a lot of everything else, but this is a setup to me because this has been so bullish actually comparatively to a lot of other altcoins. It's only had a 74% correction while a lot of stuff has lost 90 something percent of its. Oh, okay. Well, that's the reason. Look at this. There's your all-time high of 2018. There's your all-time high of 2021. It didn't even go on to a new all-time high. So remember what I said about Near protocol? This is like the idea of what Near can do in 2024. Watch. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. Look at this, guys. So full fib pull from macro buying climax to macro selling climax. Where do we come up? The 786. Multiple rejections, about 5 in a row, lower highs. Now we're back on the 0.5. This looks crazy, this chart. So this is your macro AR. This thing could have a nice bull run in the future. Wow. Yeah, this is a setup. This might be a good investment. Because if it comes down 0.5 and holds support, you're looking at 5,000%, maybe around 5,000% on this macro trading range, which is effectively could be in play leading into right around there, December 2024. That's definitely enough time to make that type of move. Got 2,000% off there, 2,000%. Yeah, it's sitting you somewhere into $1. That wouldn't even be a bad play considering where things are headed. So yeah, this is an interesting setup. This is an interesting chart. I mean, I should talk about this in 3 or 4, maybe 5 months from now and see where things are at. But I want to see how it goes with the September, October, November timeframe. Really cool chart. And yeah, I was just kind of making a comment of why it was surprising that it only went 74% down, but then I looked at the fact that it never made a new all-time high. It was effectively down 40% from the prior all-time high when everything else was doing pretty good. So it didn't get the same type of gains. And still good off the spring. The C19 crash, still 1,400%. And like I said to you before, we're almost 600% off the C19 crash. So if you bought this thing at those lows back there, it's been tremendous performance since. It's a really solid looking project based on the chart, actually. I know this guy, the guy behind, I think it's Justin's son who's behind this. He's an interesting character. I don't know if I went into decoding him, but I'm going to leave this macro fib pull on. I think this is powerful stuff. Holding that 0.5 fib in the macro is very powerful stuff. I like that. But, it gets dicey during some of these black swans. So this 382 to 236 is really where things can get. And I'm more confident in the 382 actually. That would be a pullback. Yeah, 82%. That'd be about what ETH did. But this thing's doing better than ETH and Bitcoin regarding the full pullback. I guess, it's just Bitcoin was $3,000 down here and went into price discovery. Okay, I'm going to wrap this one up. This is a very long podcast. I know we focused a lot on the decode and breaking down symbolism behind Worldcoin. Thank you for re-voting on Tron. Super interesting chart. I'm actually going to save this and revisit it another time. But for now, I believe I talked enough about it to the point where you get an idea that it it's outperformed the last 2 projects I've looked at regarding how the past couple of years have gone. Anywho, the data that was shared in the beginning also about how to interpret the month of August, I think is very helpful moving into this upcoming full moon and the new moon of August, all the data that I shared around those dates and prior performance for Bitcoin over the past 4 years. And we're in that pre-election year. So that's powerful stuff. So let's keep that all in mind, family. And the next decode I'll be coming out in a couple weeks, probably 2 to 3 weeks from today, will be called the Yellow Bricks Road Decoded. Going to be getting all into that next 15th annual BRICS Summit, which will be, I think, in the third week of August. So we have some time. I want to get that out to you before that summit, very similarly to what I did with FedNow Decoded, where I got that out to you before that launched. And let's just see how the next couple days go leading into this monthly close. And I appreciate all your support. I'm looking forward to the next Red Pill podcast already. I can't wait to see how this next couple weeks goes, but I'll be catching you guys next week regardless. So appreciate every single one of you. Wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.